Let's add this template to our target. So this is inside of game. Let's be Dashkin. Well, where is it actually? It's inside of data, not game. Dashkin game mode data. So I should template that out. And what we're going to want to do is now actually generate our code from this. So what's it going to be? I think we need a U object in here. And that thing is what we're going to be using to access this data that's already built into it statically. So I need something that looks kind of like this. U Dashkin game mode data. And inside of the CPP, so we're also going to want to include the Dashkin shared objects.h. That needs to go above the generation. So these are all going to create modes. Alright, so we're going to want static in32 get default mode count. Static in32 get random option set limits. Get options for next match. The next thing we'll do is we'll have like a. We're gonna need to get a. Go to shared objects.h. We're going to want to get an option set. Get option set. So we're going to want like a get all option sets, which you pass in a T array of fgame mode option set. And that'll give everything out. You can get it by name, get an option set by name. We'll have like get random option set. We'll also want a static void get random option sets within 32. Yeah, it'll be like a T array of option sets, and then a limit. So like a number of them. And we'll also want something that so it'll be like get random option set should do this. No, we don't want get random option sets here. We just want like get option sets. We don't need anything insane. This is the autogen code. We want the autogen code to just have data in it. We don't want it to be smart. We want it to be stupid. That way we don't have to change it all the time. Okay, so we need another structure here, is what it sounds like. We need a game mode, some like default pre-made game modes. So we need static, what is it going to be? Game mode option set. It's going to be a game mode configuration. So it'll be get random game mode. Hello, Tribal Crackers. Was that a question? Welcome. Yeah, the server files are coming out tomorrow. Yeah, the idea is the customers will be able to run their own dedicated servers and configure them and set like an admin password for them. And that should be coming out tomorrow. So that should let people host on Windows and have it, always on and do their own stuff. Hopefully also have better performance for multiplayer because the server can run at a higher frame rate than your game client since it doesn't have to render anything. So it'll give you more dependable physics and probably better performance for people over the network. Because if you're the server and you see a big particle system that lags your machine or something, then everybody's performance is going to suffer. Alright, so we're also going to want get all game modes. So like a T-array that we pass in. And then we want like another one which is get required game modes. And we want the get non-required game modes. It's another thing that we might want. So yeah, hopefully that's coming out tomorrow. Worst case, it'll be the day after tomorrow if everything explodes with the update. But I don't see any reason why we won't. And if you're curious about how all that's going to work, I would suggest you go read on the wiki about how it operates. Let me give you a link. So kind of at the bottom of that wiki, it's got information on how to do port forwarding and then how the dedicated server works. So basically there's a batch file that'll help you out and help you configure the server and run it. And you basically have to go to the dedicated server page, and you have to actually create a dedicated server account, and then you download the secret key for that server because the server needs to log in as an actual thing. And so you can like create a new account with a specific name, like My Awesome Server. That's just for your naming in case you want to run multiple, and you can only run like 10 servers yourself. So we got it locked down a little bit, but not really. It's really just to help us out in case we have more advanced features where like maybe we can route people to a customer's game server if they got the right mode or something. Can you do this now? No. None of that's live until the next update, so sorry. You won't be able to grab any of that. Yeah, well, tomorrow can only come so fast. It's all ready to go, but there's only so much we can get done. Okay, so this is going to be Dashkin, and we'll do mode data. So let's just get all this stuff set up. So this will be functions for game mode configuration. This is functions for option sets. This will be options for server playlist. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this next update that people are looking forward to. Probably the biggest thing that people don't. Well, there's two big things that people may not realize. The increase of the server frame rate from 60 frames per second to 100 frames per second means the ball is going to be smoother and it's going to travel farther. So I can kind of give you a quick rundown of why that is. So basically, like if this is, our ball. So if we're if we're moving our ball around, so if the server is running at like a low frame rate, the ball moves in these kind of stutter step motions where the ball will move like up and then to the left and then down or whatever. So if you hit something in an arc and it was supposed to like go like, in the real world it would go in this nice parabolic arc, on the server it would go in these like steps where it would go high and then so it would never travel as far as your hit in the real world, and it would also kind of the lower the frame rate, the more shitty this arc is going to look. So what's going to happen is the ball's going to move faster and go farther. So it's going to completely throw off everybody's timing. So if you're used to doing a little pop-up, having this thing like nicely go into the goal, it's now going to go higher than you think it is. So I think everybody's going to be like, what the fuck? The other thing is we were checking for physics collision with your player hits before you moved for the frame. So what that meant is when you were punching, you're actually punching one frame in the past. So if you were moving fast, your collision was like lagging by 30% of the screen, or 20% or 10% of the screen behind you, and people were missing hits as a result. So now it checks both. So it'll move you check, and it'll check both, so you will get more accurate hits on this. So we'll see if people notice that as well. I believe people will notice. Well, I don't think people will notice that they're not missing hits anymore. I think it'll just work, and they won't know it got better because they're not noticing the problem, so they won't notice anything at all. So it'll be a brand new game. And the servers run through like a playlist of maps as well, so you're not going to have to switch servers to go to like the Forest Night level or something like that. You'll just go to the Forest Night level after a few matches on its own. Because that was one thing I saw that was kind of annoying for especially streamers, is when they would want to like go to the next map and you'd have to like talk to people on stream, and you're like, well, which server are we going to? Oh, I don't know, the one in Sydney. You'd be like, well, there's 2 servers in Sydney. You'd be like, I don't know. And what I'm working on right now is not going to go in this update, but next update, which is advanced server options. So if you're curious about that, there's just a ton of different game mode stuff that's going to go in there. Like pacifist mode, only being able to do pop-ups, games where you can't dash or you can only crouch, things where there's no team indicators or ball indicators, where there's multiple balls, or the ball is bigger or faster, slower, or it's, there's super violent mode where the AI is always on hard mode and your stun durations are lower and your attack speed is faster, so you can throw more punches faster and people aren't stunned as much. Stuff like that. So there'll also be like double jumps and triple jump mode and mad ups mode where you can jump forever. I think it'll be pretty cool. I think it will also be insane. So I'm working on some of that. Hello, Kerkin. What did I do to learn to code and program? I went to school, but it really wasn't school that helped me learn how to program. It was sitting down in front of a computer and typing. So I went to a 4-year college, Digipen, in Bellevue, Washington. Learned to program. It was focused on game. How long did it take to know C++? I wouldn't say I know C++. I say I can program in it. To say you know C++ is probably just a red flag of like, nobody knows C++. There's just always more crap to know about it. But yeah, it was a 4-year college. All that was C++ programming. And by the end of it, you could program and make your own game. We made a game every year. And that was pretty cool. Let's make sure all this stuff compiles. So yeah, the big thing with learning was, since we did a project every year, and you did your project was you have to make a game and you have to have 3 to 5 people on your team, so you have to work together with people. And the thing about learning to make the games was really just finding good people who, instead of wanting to screw around in college, wanted to actually go do stuff like program. And That was really the secret to success. Alright, so for our templates, is this a template file with like nothing in it? Yeah. Alright, so it's gonna be it's gonna be game modes dot playlist dot this is get options for next match, so this will be options for next match. Isn't this the case with any group project? Well, I mean, yes and no, but I think it was the programming stuff, like, you really couldn't learn how to do it unless you had people, because that's a big thing about being an engineer, is you have to be able to work with other people, which is why I work with no other people in my basement. But in the real world, one of your greatest skills as an engineer is working with other people professionally, and that's really damned hard. So it's hard to find them. Yeah. Well, it depends. For me, I was fortunate, and the people I was matched with on the very first group project ended up being the right people to be around. So that was fortuitous, and I didn't like have to go through like this group of friends is like a whole bunch of they're not good people for me. I didn't have to go through that, so that was nice. It looks like their project didn't actually pick up our changes, so let's go ahead and exit. Yeah, nothing's worse than those random partners. Like, and that was the thing, like, the game teams were self-forming. The professor did not go around and say, you two are working on a team. The game teams were, the very first semester, yes, the professor just said, like, you guys in this row are now a team, deal with it. And he made sure that, like, people had to go through that. But after that, everybody picked their own teams. So if you were an asshole, nobody wanted to work with you. And what naturally happened was all the assholes ended up on the same asshole team, and and everybody just hated them, and they hated each other too. But it was their own damn fault. All right, I think it's Dashkin shared objects. Shared object. So it was kind of self-policing. Like but that wasn't always the case. A good example is the CS105 robot car project we did, where we got assigned teams, and the other two people on my team did nothing on this project that you're supposed to do. And I'd be talking to the professor, like, these guys don't do jack shit, and he'd just be like, I know, you're still graded the same, and they'll probably just fail the final exam because they don't know anything. And I was always pissed about it. But those guys didn't graduate, and in some ways I learned more because I had to do everything. It was a really funny class because we had we had to take these really crappy RC cars and make them work with these microcontrollers that they're not made to work with. And so we had to use like the PIC microcontroller, the pulse width modulator to simulate like a radio frequency or some shit. And we didn't have anything Like, we didn't have any real documentation on how to use anything except the pulse width modulator. So you just basically like dumped analog values into this thing until you figured out which frequencies worked for like making the car go forward or turn its wheels left and right, which is total bullshit. And so everybody be like, what fucking frequencies are we supposed to use for these cars? And the professor would just hold up the datasheet book and just be like, well, look at the datasheet. And the datasheet literally is just the documentation of how to like set a frequency in the pulse width modulator. It didn't say like, because it wasn't specific to the robot car. It was from the fucking breadboard and the microcontroller set, which is not made to go with the car. And some of the cars were, these were shitty cars, so they were all different. And if you don't know much about how batteries work and how those interact with electric motors, so like if your batteries got drained on your car, these frequencies kind of changed because of the voltage going across stuff kind of changed. So something that would make the car go forward at one battery level wouldn't go on another one. It was just... So what I did for that project is I strapped guns to the top of the car, airsoft machine guns, hot wired them, and just put a mechanical switch on it. And that was my cool thing that my car did. And then I built an eye for it, which was some light sensors with color filters on the front, so it could detect basic colors. And so it would shoot things in front of it that were specific color. And it was supposed to have 3 machine guns on it, but only had 2, because when I hot wired the machine guns, I fucked up one of them and it melted the whole gun. So, don't play with batteries. You might end up melting things. Just fuck around with a bunch of wires and then hook it all up, and then like your gun like starts sizzling, and you're like, why is that happening? Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't just cross wires together with batteries without some sort of, some sort of resistor between it. It's just gonna short the whole system. Alright, so I need to open up the game mode data. So I need to generate all these game modes, but I'm really damned hungry, actually. I'm gonna have to go and eat food at some point here soon. Okay, so I'm gonna want to go through. Let's just go from the top. I need to focus a little bit more here. We want our game modes to have game mode sets. So for our game modes, we're gonna have perhaps public things here. So let's have our game modes. Yeah, so I mean, if you were wanting to learn how to do game programming, I would recommend... I think the game programming focused schools like Full Sail and DigiPen and all those are the places to go, because at like a big public university, you're going to learn Java, you're going to learn classical data structures, and a lot of things like that. But there's so much in programming and engineering that there's almost too much. So getting a general education isn't going to make you stand out in the workforce. Which it's nearly impossible to get a game position to start with. If you don't have game experience, you're screwed. Like, the only reason I got a job out of college is because I specifically put like server engineer on my resume, and that's the only reason I got any callbacks. So I'm wondering how I should construct these objects. Because it's kind of a pain in the ass to define them inline. I mean, I could just have static ones. Yeah, why not? See how it works. So game set options. Option sets. Yeah, and if you're wondering what these option sets are, I don't think Karakan saw this with all the different options like multiple balls, big ball, fast ball, slow ball, super violent, sticky ball, team swapping stuff. Like if you stomp somebody, they'll switch to your team and shit like that. Pacifist mode, things like fast fastball and slow ball and all that sort of stuff. So we're gonna have a lot of options that do crazy stuff. I think the most interesting simple game mode change is if you punch the ball, if you hit the ball will follow you. Kind of like if you hit the ball and it was like going away from you, it'll actually like come back around and follow you, like a lost dog or something. And then, but you can still hit it, so it'll be following you, and if you like slow down, it'll like fly out in front of you and then try to come back towards you, and then you can punch it into the goal and shit like that. And if somebody else hits the ball will follow them. But and they'll have stuff like where if you hit somebody else, all the balls following them will stop following them or follow you. Or we might have it where, because these are all simple toggles, where if you hit if you have multiple balls and you hit a ball, it'll follow you. But the only way somebody can steal the ball is if they hit the ball themselves. So if like somebody's coming at you, just like smack the ball away from you, and then like they beat the shit out of you, and you get out of it. They won't be able to steal your ball because it's off in the air, coming back around towards you. So there's a lot of things we'll have in there that I think will be really cool. Ball's trying to avoid players. I don't know about that. The ball's already a pain in the ass to go get, right? Wouldn't that just be a repel mode? Yes, but that involves more logic because now I have to like iterate over all players and have like a weight for them, and then have different weights based on different distances. Travel Crackers, we probably will not have an actual like launcher that'll launch your patcher sort of thing, just because that's another program we'd have to write and deal with, and and then you have to like optimize the size of the launcher patcher, like because that's the initial download that people have to download anyway, and then you have to have like self-updating, and I've done all that crap before, but I don't want to, since our main launch thing is launchers happen when devs run out of shit to do. Oh yeah, or there's too many teams. Launcher patchers are good and all, but there needs to be a reason. Usually you have a launcher patcher for more of a free-to-play game because you need to have everybody on like the same thing all the time. And download size and speed and bandwidth is a much bigger deal. So, and since our launch target is Steam, it's going to have the updates for us anyway. So I'm not too concerned with a launcher patcher. If we got to the point where we're going to do a launcher patcher, then we'll get there. Maybe at some point. But I highly doubt it. So if we were going to do a launcher, if we were going to do like an auto-updating thing, what we'd probably do is have an auto-update program just in the main game. So the game would boot up. It'd say, do you want to download the latest update? It would just have like a little progress bar of the game itself downloading a copy of the game. And then it would just like run the installer while shutting off. Right? Like, something real simple like that is that would be probably as far as I would go. Because you get into really crazy shit there with auto-updating and lots of bugs also can happen that are never fun. Yeah, the main thing for this project that I want to avoid for the launcher is I don't want to make a second process, because a second process is going to have a whole different dependency chain, a whole different build process, and it'll be a whole separate executable because you need to cut everything out. Unreal 4 is not built for small executable sizes. We'd basically one-off this thing. And even then, getting it small enough and using a nice framework for the UI is a real pain in the ass. Like, if you're going to make an installer with a launcher patcher, you want that thing to be as small as possible. And if you're pulling in like a DLL-linked WebKit framework like Qt, you're looking at like a minimum installer size of like 20 megs, which isn't that big of a difference when your fully installable game is like we have now 400 megs. That's not a huge advantage. But if you were, Knights of the Old Republic with a 45 gigabyte game, a 20 megabyte download is a hell of a lot easier and well worth the time. Alright, so what I need to do here is I need to set the option set variables by iterating over the game mode information and setting the variables on the things. So So we have our option set. So we're going to set the name. Let's see, is this actually what this thing has got? This option set, game mode options set has a name and then a list of options. Alright, and then we need to do a list. Option set dot properties as prop. And we need to make one of these game objects, which is going to be a game mode option. And it's going to be opt.type equals prop. This is an enum. So we're going to have a name here. So this will be property.name. And what kind of enum does this have? It's in our enums. So it's going to be EBS underscore game option. And we'll do uppercase there. And opt.value is going to be prop.value. Let me take a look at that. Looks like, yeah, this value is a string, so we just set it and it'll be just fine. So then we need to set os.options complex is true, array is true, so options.add opt. And at the end of this, we need to add to our total options No, I still have some other things, don't I? I've got the game modes in rotation. So this is going to be a Boolean. We want in rotation. Wait, no, we don't need that. That's fine. We need to add this to the G option sets. Okay, so that'll add all of those. So now we want the option sets that are we don't have anything for those. So in rotation, how are we going to use that? We do need an option set in rotation thing somewhere. Like we have get all option sets. What we want is like static void get all option sets in rotation, and we'll pull that out. Thank you for following, Travel Crackers, for all the exciting programming things that I have. I don't know. I just kind of slowly work on things. And it's usually really frustrating for everybody involved. Thank you for subscribing, Travel Crackers. You are a very valued member of this game community now because you paid money. Welcome to what is an ever-growing channel and an ever-growing game. even though you're already a part of it. You didn't already follow. Yeah, you can spam your ambient upsets now at Adam. I think that's the biggest thing about subscribing to my channel is you get the upset emote of me, because every time you spam that in Adam's chat, he like he has flashbacks to memories of me just like being disappointed with him, and he feels bad about himself. So you can so so whenever Adam's like talking about some shit, you can just like spam my upset face, and he'll just be like, "Oh man, yeah, fine, fuck." So it's fun times. Anyway, everything that like all the subscribing and whatever money, etc., that goes towards our Twitch stuff, that's also going straight into the business too. So it's every little bit helps. Like we got to pay for sounds and sound effects, all that server costs as well. Nothing's free. Well, nothing's free except for like Adam and me working on this game at the moment. We don't get paid. We don't get paid in anything. Okay, so the other thing I need is G option sets in rotation. Death is free. Eh, jeez, these carrot can are just. See how it is. Well, it costs life, but meh. We're gonna make everything all dark and evil until we got our brooding artists and shit. I don't know why this reminds me of that, but like one time, I think it was after college. Me and I had a roommate after college for a little while, which we didn't get along, but whatever. What a surprise, right? Me not getting along with somebody. Um, we signed up to take like these karate classes or whatever at this local karate gym because we thought it was cool and we wanted to punch people. And like the first time we went there, they had like the master dude who's like all big and buff, and he wasn't like the classic, some dude wearing American flag pants or something with a bandana. But he was talking about like all this stuff, and then he like went completely off the rails and started talking about like, well, you don't really want to win some fights, and then he just went off the rails and started describing like how there were fights in his life he had won that he shouldn't have, like beating his wife and like people in bars that he was jealous of, and it was just like, maybe I should leave this dojo. This might be the wrong dojo for me. That's not where my name comes from, but it's just like, fuck. I don't know if this is the right place. Yeah, it was just like the dude almost started crying, and it was just like shit, Other people were like nodding their heads sympathetically. I'm like, dude, uh, support the beaten and battered wife, not this asshole. Like, he doesn't need sympathy. He needs to be in jail. God damn. Alright, so I need to say if the option set in rotation. Yeah, okay. So we also need set collisions. Yeah, so we need like a collision array for these things. So I think we need to add that somehow. I think we just need to add a collision thing here. So it's going to be an array of strings on this dude here. So this will be collision list. And then we can just we can just go through a list here. Option set collisions as collision. And then we can just do our option set dot collision list dot add. Let's see, this will be collision like that. So that'll add everything in there. And then we need our game mode stuff. So our game mode, we need two game modes have a name, variables, and option sets. So we need to attach the option sets to this thing. So we need to set the name. So I think that's just mode.name. And then inside of this, we've got always in rotation. Yeah, so we need another game modes always in rotation. And then we have option sets. So what we want to do is, this will be mode dot option sets as set. So add them in like so. And then always in rotation is just something else. So that'll go for every list. Yeah, so we don't need to do anything there. And then we need to add this to our global list. So that's going to be G game modes. And then we need to know if mode dot in rotation, right? Always in rotation. And then we'll have our game modes always in rotation, and I can't spell. I'm just getting too damn hungry. Alright, game modes, add all the things. Okay, so getting the, alright, I also need non-required game modes. G, not required game modes. Yeah, exactly. And what I'm doing here is, this is basically a whole templating engine thing, and I think templatized programming is something that is not commonly used in a lot of stuff, but I think it should be used a lot more than it is. Like the only places I commonly see it are generating network bindings and like online system programming. I also see it a bit in gameplay stuff, but not as much as you'd expect. There's a lot of copy paste of everything that could be solved by big auto-generation template engine systems for generating your code. And a lot of things where you use like template classes and generics in your languages when actually what you really want is just templated code. Because you lose compile time checks on a lot of stuff, and you make your code harder to read and you make systems generic that really shouldn't be generic. I don't know. I have opinions. So non-required game modes, so modes equals this. Get required game modes. Get all game modes. Get random game mode. So we'll just do that. Get all option sets. Alright, so that's going to be option sets. And get all option sets in rotation. Get option set by name. Let's just do an if-else chain because we can. You can't switch off of strings in C++, so I don't feel like making a set or something else. I figure it doesn't matter. It looks like I've got some stuff that's screwed up. Let's see, option set name. Cool. Alright, so we're good.